Interviewing the producer of Harvest Moon. Part 2. Character Designs. If you haven't already, then check out part 1 of this interview with Hashimoto-san, because I explained there that the interview was from 2012 and how I'm simply reenacting it since it had never been translated to English before. Hashimoto-san produced many well-known Harvest Moon titles, but now he's launched his own company that will be continuing the Rune Factory series that he created. Now that you're all caught up, let's get on with this part of the interview. Hashimoto-san, thank you for all of your insights from the first part of the interview about the production process. But now I'd like to shift gears a bit and inquire about the character designs. Ever since you became the producer of the series, we started seeing a lot of drastic changes in terms of character designs, especially Harvest Moon Tree of Tranquility and Animal Parade. And I wonder, was this because the releases of those home console games were really close to some of the handheld releases? Or was this just because you hired a different designer to come in and design those two games for the Wii? Can we get some more information about that?
That's definitely one of the reasons the character designs were so different for those games. However, with Harvest Moon Tree of Tranquility specifically, this game's character designs were intentionally drastic, as it was a way for us to symbolize the series moving to a new gaming system, the Wii. We saw this transition to a new gaming system as a good opportunity to incorporate new concepts into the Harvest Moon series. There were many new features in Tree of Tranquility, so I thought it'd be the perfect time to introduce an entirely new look for each character as well.
Now that you mention it, every time a Harvest Moon title is released on a new gaming system, we tend to see a lot of changes in the character designs.
I really question the idea of continuing to keep the same names, same characters, same designs, all throughout such a long-running series. Once you look through the Harvest Moon 15th Anniversary art book, you'll see all of the different character designs throughout the series. I think you'll notice how much they've diverted from the norm since I started getting involved.
Just as Hashimoto-san said, you can clearly see the stylistic changes that the series went through after he started encouraging the notion of change for the series. The official character designer for the Harvest Moon series, Matsuyama-san, illustrated for all of the games, except for my two personal favorites, Tree of Tranquility and Animal Parade. This fact really surprised me.
One time I had the chance to look through a collection of reviews from players that had played previous titles in the series, and there were definitely a lot of people that weren't happy about the changes that were taking place. Instead of feeling defeated by these criticisms, I stayed true to what I thought was best for the series: change. I know a lot of people hold the older characters near and dear to their hearts, and they are without a doubt charming characters, but we can't keep reusing the same characters forever. Instead of changing all of the characters at once each time we release a new game, I thought it'd be better to slowly change them over time as the series grew.
Another one of the memorable games in the series was Harvest Moon Grand Bazaar. This game's designs were a lot different from what we had seen up until that point.
I know it's wrong for me to add rankings to the titles in the series, but I have to say that Grand Bazaar was one of my personal favorites in terms of design. We wanted to design a Harvest Moon that looked as if it was made by a Northern European illustrator or a Slovakian artist. Luckily, at the time, we had just launched an affiliate company in Europe, so we were able to draw on that particular style and add it into the game.
In this part of the interview, I'm going to be talking a lot about somebody named Matsuyama-san. Matsuyama-san is the official character designer for the Harvest Moon series. Matsuyama-san's gender is unknown. However, for the sake of this interview, I'm going to be referring to Matsuyama-san as a he, just because, based on all the research I did, most people are assuming it's a man. But if you know his true gender, please let me know. And how did this all go over when you proposed it to Matsuyama-san?
Matsuyama-san and I were on the same page. We both knew that we shouldn't continue to keep things the same just to avoid risk. We were ready for a new challenge. Whenever you start something new, it's always hard to form a strong foundation to build from. But as we got going, Matsuyama-san really started to get the hang of things and even coming up to me with questions like, "How about this design? What about this one?" It actually took a really long time until we got to the point that we were able to finally settle on a design.
Can you give us a rough idea of what the character designing process looks like?
First, I make a rough proposal of what I want to do. From there, I take it to our development staff and clean it up a bit. Then I'm ready to bring it to Matsuyama-san and have him start to draw and expand on the design. After that, we meet one last time for some minor adjustments. But in the case of Grand Bazaar, I was really particular about the clothing designs, so I ended up meeting with Matsuyama-san several times before I felt satisfied with what we had.
These are the character designs in Grand Bazaar that Hashimoto-san was referring to. When it's time to ask Matsuyama-san to design the characters for a new game, what are the details that you tell him?
Just the overall theme. I give specific details about what the game's atmosphere is going to be like. But when I give these details in the game's early production stages, his designs end up not reflecting what I had in mind when I first brought them up. That's why we take the first 2 designs or so and sort of put them on hold until we get further into production. His 3rd or 4th designs usually end up being the ones that actually debut in the games.
After Grand Bazaar, Tale of Two Towns was released, and something that really stood out to me was how much taller the characters were for this game. Here are the official illustrations for the protagonists in Tale of Two Towns.
Up until the release of Tale of Two Towns, we had already released 5 other titles on the DS, and I thought, I can't keep releasing the same type of content. I've got to change it up somehow. There were a lot of parties involved, both inside and outside of the company. They were totally against this idea of making the characters taller and moving away from the chibi design. I knew how successful the designs would be without drifting from the status quo, just as well as I knew that doing what I wanted to do with the height change would be a big risk. I was completely aware of the facts. But having to make the players who spend their money on our games wait a long time due to delays, like with what happened during our previous release, didn't sit well with me. I thought, I always want our players to be able to experience something new, so that's what made me choose to take the risk with the new character designs. That same feeling of wanting to offer something new to the players is what inspired our fantasy and futuristic Harvest Moons, like Rune Factory and Innocent Life. When I first started being in charge of the Rune Factory series, I got a lot of comments along the lines of, "This isn't just another Harvest Moon game, right?"
But every time that you did challenge the status quo, with games like Rune Factory, Grand Bazaar, Tale of Two Towns, we ended up with some of the highest acclaimed games in the series.
I really want to thank our fans for supporting the series. They're the reason for its success. And if I was able to make something that the players enjoyed playing, then that's what makes me the happiest.
That completes the second part of the interview with Hashimoto-san. In the next part of the interview, I'm going to get some of our most frequently asked questions answered, like who his favorite characters are and what games left the biggest impressions on him out of the series. So subscribe to see more.